Trump claimed credit for Obama's economy. Trump inherited a positive economy from Obama just as he inherited millions of dollars from his father and squandered them both. This is why it is astonishing to me that the Republicans poll better on the economy.
The longest bull market ever. That means it's the longest period ever without a decline of 20% or more. Now, it's
in spite of historical economic data showing the Republican presidents have been bad for the economy. We can start with the Democratic President Bill Clinton balancing the budget to Republican.
Balanced budget I signed into law today will continue our successful economic strategy. It reflects the most fundamental values that brought us together. It will spur growth and spread opportunity. Even after we pay for tax cuts penny by penny, there will still be $900 billion in savings, including $500 billion in entitlement savings over the next 10 years.
Republican President George W. Bush giving a tax cut to the rich immediately after his inauguration, creating a deficit. Republicans never exhibit fiscal responsibility when in office.
Estimated today, President Bush will leave his successor a federal budget deficit approaching $500 billion, $75 billion more than it was projecting just a few months ago. Both John McCain and Barack Obama were quick to blame Mr. Bush for the red ink, but what would they do about it?
Hindsight is 20/20. However, America is blindsided by racial hatred. Whites collectively deny Obama credit for the rebuilding of the economy, when it is clear Obama administration was forced to issue economic policies in order to recover America from a recession created by a majority Republican Congress. Economic policies signed into law by a Republican President George W. Bush.
In Washington today, Barack Obama huddled with his economic team, people who've served presidents from Carter to Clinton, even George W. Bush.
We have to change course, and we're going to have to take some immediate action.
One of his first priorities, ending the Bush tax cuts for people making more than $250,000 a year and using the money for a tax cut for the middle class.
After Obama took office, January 20th, 2009, he began an aggressive executive order campaign in order to circumvent a Republican Congress oppositional to his presidency, and actively working to sabotage the American recovery.
We can't wait for an increasingly dysfunctional Congress to do its job.
That's President Obama's new slogan, aimed at Congress as he begins to unveil a series of executive orders because Republicans won't pass his jobs bill. In Las Vegas Monday, he announced a plan to make it easier for homeowners to refinance. Nevada has the highest foreclosure rate in the nation. RealtyTrack says 1 out of every 118 homes in the state is in foreclosure.
Republicans do this by pushing measures to inflict economic hardship on the American public under the claims of fiscal responsibility. In spite of this opposition from Congress, the effects of Obama administrative policies began to have an immediate effect on the U.S. economy, sparking a bull market run as early as March 9th, less than 90 days into Obama presidency that lasted 3,543 days.
President Obama used the announcement to take a swipe at Republicans in Congress.
We can't just wait for Congress. Until they act, until they do what they need to do, we're going to act on our own, because we can't wait for Congress to help our families and our economy.
This is also...
However, racism allowed Trump, after serving just 575 days in office, only 18 months out of a 113-month, 12-day stock market growth, to take credit for America's first black president accomplishments.
People that said this is going to be the greatest thing to ever happen to our country. I guess that's why I won. We had a lot of people. But you had others that say, oh, the market will collapse, lots of bad things will happen. And take a look at what's happened. We have the greatest, longest bull market in the history of our country. They turned out to be wrong. Some have actually apologized, but very, very few. I think the rest will soon be apologizing because honestly, the American public demands an apology. We are doing better financially as a country than we've ever done before.
Because he is able to claim credit for an inherited economy from America's first black president.
Ken Brown, I'm the editor of Heard on the Street at the Wall Street Journal, and we're going to go back over some of the high points and low points of this 3,543-day bull market. Since the bull market started on March 9th, 2009, stocks are up 320%. And if you go back to the start date, you can see why. Bull markets start during terrible times, and this is no exception. It was the heart of the financial crisis.
We fail to truly see the economic hardships created by Trump policies.
Because we have a trade war going on right now, we have an implosion in Turkey, and we have volatility all over the place.
And the true effects on the everyday working American people, especially the effects Trump tariffs have contributed to American inflation.
Let's say I'm buying watches from China to sell at big box retail stores here in the US. Say each watch costs me $10. Add in a 20% tariff to that, and I now have to pay $12 per watch. $2 doesn't sound like much, but if my order is 15,000 watches, my total cost has now gone from $150,000 to $180,000. That 20% tariffs on watches cost me an unexpected $30,000 on goods.
And the fact that you get people who can't understand this basic concept, who don't have the basic common sense to go look up how tariffs are paid, shows you the dumbing down of America is threatening to our democracy.
Nor have we examined the effects Trump and previous Republicans' tax cuts to the wealthy and its contributions to the current deficit increase and its effects on American inflation.
The phone.
Warren, are you on?
I'm here.
Warren is Warren Buffett, the richest man in the world, who, despite his billions, says the rich are not taxed enough.
Time for Money, Power, Politics. And today we're going to take a closer look at the soaring U.S. deficit, falling revenues thanks to GOP tax cuts, and increased spending that is pushing the country deeper into debt. The federal budget deficit increased by $113 billion during fiscal year 2018, a 17% increase over 2017, bringing the deficit to $779 billion. What does that mean?
Just as Obama policies had lingering effects that benefited the Trump administration, Trump policies have an ongoing effect that negatively affect the current Biden administration, and many of those ongoing issues from the Trump administration, Republicans now blame Biden for the same way as Trump took credit for the Obama economy.
And, you know, if she doesn't like them, they should have gone out and they should have immediately cut the tariffs. But those tariffs are there 3.5 years now under their administration.
Not a Biden supporter, but the reason why they was unable to cut the Trump tariffs once they got in office is because they was dependent on that revenue source due to the fact that Trump had created a tax cut that lowered America's revenues and increased the deficit.
If tariffs cost businesses so much money, why have them in the first place? Well, there's two main reasons. First, they raise money. That revenue goes to the general fund of the U.S. Treasury, which helps pay for running the government. Last year, the U.S. collected almost $35 billion in duties.
President Harris, I do want to ask for your response, and you heard what the president said there, because the Biden administration did keep a number of the Trump tariffs in place. So how do you respond?
Well, let's be clear that the Trump administration resulted in a trade deficit, one of the highest we've ever seen in the history of America.
2. Some of the largest items that the U.S. is shipping to China include things like soybeans, aircraft, and electrical machinery. So when China retaliated by announcing a 25% tariff on U.S.-made airplanes, that was a direct hit to Boeing, and the company's stock price fell on the news. Boeing is selling planes to China Southern Airlines Group, which plans to buy more than 300 aircraft in the next 3 years. So with higher tariffs on U.S. planes, it could buy a larger share of airplanes from, say, France's Airbus instead. The vast majority of economists surveyed by a Reuters poll said that import tariffs would do more harm to the U.S. economy than good. Yet, like most things with President Trump, he's standing his ground as governments, companies, and consumers scramble to see what's.
Donald Trump has no plan for you. And when you look at his economic plan, it's all about tax breaks for the richest people.
They come up with a massive tax cut, which disproportionately goes to corporate America and the upper 1% of the American people. And then argue the only way to solve it is Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. No. This is not a spending problem. It is a revenue problem. We cut taxes during a period of economic growth, and we did not share it with all the American people. That's how we got here, and that's the only way we're going to get out of it is reversing it.
Hey, look, corporate taxes were down $92 billion, but individual taxes were up $96 billion, even with the tax cuts. And even
corporate taxes decreased, but individual taxes increased after the Trump tax cuts.
Hey, look, corporate taxes were down $92 billion, but individual taxes were up $96 billion, even with the tax cuts. And even
I don't know if you're listening to what was said. He said corporate taxes decreased, personal taxes increased under the Donald Trump tax cut.
Hey, look, corporate taxes were down $92 billion, but individual taxes were up $96 billion, even with the tax cuts. And even
I don't know if you're listening to what was said. He said corporate taxes decreased, personal taxes increased under the Donald Trump tax cut.
Hey, look, corporate taxes were down $92 billion, but individual taxes were up $96 billion, even with the tax cuts. And even
I don't know if you're listening to what was said. He said corporate taxes decreased, personal taxes increased under the Donald Trump tax cut. Because we don't understand how the trillions of dollars in tax cut that Donald Trump gave to the rich added to American deficit, we don't understand that they had to substitute the rich taxes with the American consumer paying a tax through tariffs. This is where Trump is admitting that his prior policies are the cause of current inflations and that his tax cuts has America in such a financial bind that Biden and Harris cannot afford to lift those inflationary tariffs because the income is needed in order to keep America afloat due to the Trump tax cuts for the rich.
So